This is The Process Shot. I'm Michael. I'm stuck in a familiar narrative, and I've seen The Lost City, a newish adventure comedy from directors Adam and Aaron Nee. It follows Loretta, a historian turned romance novelist, on tour promoting her latest book, alongside her book's cover model, Alan, which adds to her already reluctant and frustrated feelings about the tour. However, her work proves to have meaning when she is kidnapped by Fairfax, a billionaire who recognizes the research in her books as legitimate and necessary for his own search for a lost treasure on an island in the Atlantic. Alan, having witnessed the kidnapping, sets out to rescue her, plunging them both into an adventure like something out of one of Loretta's novels. Probably. If anything, it's more like something out of any other adventure movie where the protagonists are thrown in over their heads. The story is pretty standard and the plot is very predictable, with a great amount of save the cat energy, and little deviation from that formula and its plot points. I'll give the movie a point for not dwelling on its cliches and making light of its own premise, but it still could have strived to have a bit more in its court than it does. That's still not saying much, because it really doesn't have all that much going on for it, good or bad. The story isn't the best ever told, obviously, but it's not also completely awful, with a good amount of fun once it gets into the actual adventure story. The cast as well are far from remarkable or believable, but Sandra Bullock and Channing Tatum have enough of a chemistry that harkens to a kind of comically mismatched adventure duo you don't see too much anymore. Or, well, the kind you don't see done well. Even Daniel Radcliffe as Fairfax seems to know better than to try anything other than have as much fun as possible with being a billionaire adventure character. Anyways, I'm just saying that when it comes to the actual content of the movie, it really just ends up being average. And what you get from the film says more about you than it does the film. If you're here for the comedy antics, then you'll enjoy the jokes and awkward situations. And if you prefer the adventure, then you'll like the jungle chases and exotic locales. You won't outright love either of these, but it's not something you'd outright detest. I could probably stop the review right there, but I want to try and keep these over 5 minutes. Plus, the movie's technical elements are pretty good, especially in set design. Sure, it's pretty obvious that most scenes are made with green screens or other special effects, but it's at least given enough attention that it's not unbelievable, both in its visual design and in its actual usage in the story. Cinematography is pretty much driven towards making these locations look as pretty as possible, which it pulls off well, all things considered. It's still implemented more practically than stylistically, with any sort of visual identity in the film laying more on genre conventions and standards instead. That is, it's all about the events playing out, the action and suspense sequences, the characters being a little bit kooky, and the overall chaos. Again, it's far from a perfect movie, but it's still fun enough that it doesn't completely lose any credibility. The Lost City, Adam Nee, Aaron Nee, 2022. 3 stars. I'd say it's worth seeing, at least if you can't find anything better to watch. That's it for this review. If you liked it, leave a like. If you didn't, leave a comment. Subscribe to the channel for more reviews. You know, maybe that's the movie's biggest flaw. It's not good enough to be great, but it's not bad enough to be awful. It's perfectly average and balanced. Well, maybe not perfectly, but it's right around there anyways.